Chapter 32 Digital Democracy. What had been a quiet desert now bustled with activity as starships landed one after another around the Marathon's crash site. Savanti and Caravanserai vessels kept their distance from each other, while the three remaining Destican warships were lined up in a row. Kailasha, Ambika, and Manas all had UN flags draped over their nose cones to reflect their commandeered status. A mixed force of UN Marines and Savanti soldiers blocked access to the slave ship Tennesilsi, but this was not truly necessary, as Nagini's people had been armed and supplied by the Marathon crew. When the sun rose the day after the battle, the crash site looked like a small city. Marathon's crew had deployed the emergency shelters normally found in the escape pods. Ino woke up in one of these shelters, which had been converted into a field hospital by Chief Medical Officer Zapata. As soon as Ino was awake, she tried to go to work, which irked Zapata very much. "What part of 'you need rest' did you miss?" Zapata said, trying to push Ino back onto her bed. "People don't recover from gunshots overnight. I need to observe your stomach to see if the repair's held. What if you eat something and your stomach splits open?" "I'll drink water," Ino grumbled. "Where's Sota? Where's Elodie? Where's Rylan? What did we do with the enemy crew?" "We've set up a temporary detention camp not far from here," said a familiar voice. Looking around, Ino noticed that she was not alone in the field hospital. Miracle Hamilton, the ship's boatswain, was sitting up in her own bed, examining the many bandages around her arm and shoulder. She nonchalantly answered Ino's question. "Lieutenant Commander Beninato, Axiom, and Captain Quinn worked overnight to get the camp set up. We took almost 600 prisoners, including the enemy leader. Tactical Officer Valant and his team worked until dawn to organize interrogations." Ino hauled herself to her feet and wobbled dangerously. Looking down, she saw her left leg was now wrapped tightly in a cast. Dull pain throbbed whenever she put weight on the injured limb, but it was much more manageable than yesterday. Ino's left arm was in a sling like Miracle's, wrapped up tightly to immobilize her broken wrist. Through the fabric of her shirt, Ino could feel many stitches on her belly, marking the spot where Zapata had repaired her gunshot wound. "If I had proper facilities and more time, I could have done more expensive repairs, at least got your leg mended," Zapata grumbled. "But with the equipment I have here, we're restricted to pre-FTL medicine, which is time and the body's natural healing abilities. I want you to rest for 6 weeks." "Not an option," Ino said, hobbling towards the door. "I heard Sota say that he caught a Destican trying to send a transmission before the fight ended. We need to—" Ino was interrupted by several people entering the medical tent at once. Sota, Prispin, Rylan, a military android, and a few surviving members of the bridge crew had arrived. "What a coincidence! We were just coming to talk to you about that," Sota said. Then he paused while Ino greeted Rylan with an awkward half-hug. Then Sota added in a whisper, "Not really. Hamilton sent me a message as soon as you woke up." "What's been going on?" Ino asked. "I'm a little out of the loop." "There are 3 important developments," Prispin said while Rylan kept one arm around Ino's shoulders. "First, we got a ceasefire with the Caravanserai. Aranoe knows that we armed and supported Nagini's people, and she says she doesn't want to waste her, quote, critical financial assets in a venture with no guaranteed return on investment. Her ships and crew, Rylan translated. She doesn't want to risk either." "What's the other developments?" Ino said. "Some of the pilots from Kelly's Wolfpack survived," Prispin said. "Crash-landed on the opposite hemisphere from us. We sent a shuttle to go pick them up. Should be back in a day or 2. "The Savanti government is here," Rylan added. "The Oracle came here on one of our corvettes. He wishes to discuss our next steps with you." Ino swallowed hard. Even at the best of times, soldiers were generally not fond of political figures showing up in their midst. it was usually a disruption. "I'm not very mobile," Ino said, gesturing at her leg cast. "How are we going to do this?" "We're working on that," Sota said. "That's actually why we're here. I wanted to ask you if you felt you were ready to return to duty. If you need more time to recover, I can continue my role as acting captain." 2 months ago, Ino would have instantly agreed to this, but she had changed since being thrust into command. She felt a sense of responsibility to the Marathon's crew, and for the first time in weeks, she remembered her promise to Admiral Garnet, that she would make sure the crew got home. "No, I'll take the con," Ino said. For once, she did not have to inject fake confidence into her voice. It was already there. Sota nodded. "Yes, ma'am," he said with a small smile. "It's good to have you back. Let's plan for your meeting with the Oracle." Before she left the field hospital, Zapata made Ino swear to return for a checkup at the end of the day. Ino and her crew stepped out of the field hospital and moved through the tent city which had sprung up around Marathon's wreck. High above, the Nexus storm turned the sky a deep crimson, even though it was the middle of the day. Along the way, she was brought up to speed on other developments. She marveled at Axiom's android body and became worried about Elodie, who was at the field hospital undergoing her 3rd surgery of the day. "Plasma bolt to the chest," Sota said. "That power armor can only take so many hits before it's useless." "Zapata said it was like her right lung was flash-fried," Prisbin said with a shudder. "He thinks she'll recover, but her military career is probably over." Axiom guided the group to a prefab shelter that had been converted into a command center for Ino and Sota. Comms Officer Ndungane and EW Officer Mancini were already here, trying to connect a computer workstation to an omnidirectional antenna mounted on the roof. "The Oracle will be coming here," Sota explained. "His aide told me that there are 3 topics of discussion: collective survival, re-establishing contact with the wider galaxy, and Astro Creator Azarin." Ino turned to Rylan. "Is there something you can tell us that might be helpful?" Ino asked. "We're about to meet your people's ruler. This is no ordinary politician." Rylan folded his arms in thought. "I think he may try to convince you to leave Marathon's wreckage where it is," Rylan finally said. "I think he wants access to Coalition technology." Ino tensed up. "What? Why?" Rylan tapped his head. "Remember yesterday, when my crew and I received an over-the-air update to our cybernetic platforms? Well, we were also brought into the ongoing democratic consensus." Ino racked her brains. She knew she had heard this term before. "You mean an election?" she said. Rylan nodded. "During the battle, the Oracle briefly suspended digital democracy and became the Overlord," Rylan explained. "This gave him greater control over our military forces, but the move angered one of the sects." "Political factions," Ino whispered to Sota when he flashed a confused expression. "The Templars of Steel called for an early consensus, and the Oracle agreed," Rylan said. "So now a digital campaign is underway to select a new ruler. All of our people who are connected to the Fusion Interlink, including myself, are currently engaged in the activity." Prisbin let out a low whistle. "Can you imagine it, Ino? A democratic election playing out entirely in cyberspace, over a species-wide network. It must be incredible." "It is most certainly not species-wide," Rylan said, shaking his head. "We are still out of contact with the home world, with all other Savanti colonies and outposts. Many people seem to think we are facing an extinction-level event, thanks to both the war and this cosmic storm. As far as I can tell, only the Savanti people who are on this moon are participating in the consensus." "How many people are running for Oracle?" Sota asked. Surely Aster is trying to win another term. Drex Aster is running for re-election, yes, Ryland said. Currently, there are 15,629 candidates for Oracle, including myself. The whole room went quiet. Ino's jaw dropped. Ryland's blue skin turned a shade of violet as he blushed. I was nominated by my crew, Ryland confessed. I made some impressions while commanding the Addimash. Ino hugged Ryland with her one good arm. Well, I wish you the best of luck, she said, but that means you're going to have to leave the room when Oracle Aster gets here. I understand, Ryland said. And I confess to this request being selfish, but I do hope you choose to stay here on the Sanctuary Moon with us, at least until this crisis is over. About 2.5 hours later, Ino was ready. She was seated in an office hastily built by the command team, furnished with a computer salvaged from the Marathon CIC. Axiom, still inhabiting the body of an android, stood in the corner like a silent bodyguard. A tablet computer rested on the desktop, displaying the latest situation report from Prisbin. A Savanti official stepped into the doorframe and said, Captain Esperanta of the Coalition Starship Marathon. Oracle Aster of the Augmented Savanti Administration wishes to speak with you. Enter, Ino said. The Oracle, now that Ino got a chance to look at him, looked more like a synthetic life form than a cyborg. Clearly, he had gone further down the path of cyberization than the rest of his people. Oracle Aster's body seemed to glitter as the light reflected off his many implants, and his eyes glowed with some artificial illumination. Ino stood when Aster entered the room. He extended his hand and gave Ino a stilted, awkward handshake. Ino had to use her right hand since her left was still in a sling. The Oracle saw the bandages covering Ino's hand and started the conversation with a comment about them. I see you have been wounded, Aster said. During the crash, no doubt. I would be willing to send my physicians to you. Thank you, Ino said. She decided not to tell him the truth about how she was injured. Many of my people are injured, some badly. I think they need help more than me. After all you've done for us, it would only be fair for my people to return the favor, Aster replied. Tell your medical team to create a list of the injured, and I will coordinate with my own military leaders. Ino nodded and tapped her tablet computer. You should know that Astro Creator Azarin is among the wounded, Ino said. Rylan, Captain Quinn, told me that you considered her safety to be paramount. Oracle Aster gestured around himself. And now you see why, he declared. 5 days ago, the atmosphere was toxic, and none of us could have gone outside without a respirator system. Now you and I can breathe, and in a few months' time, the soil will be suitable for agriculture. By the end of the year, this place might meet the criteria for being classified as a Gaia world. Azarin has outdone herself, gone far beyond what any of our scientists predicted. She has given my people a new lease on life. A new lease on life, Ino repeated. We are still unable to contact the home world, Oracle Aster said. And the Nexus storm above has done considerable damage to the local starbase. This, coupled with the Destican invasion, has made my people believe we face an existential crisis. This new colony represents the continuity of our civilization. Which brings me to why I am here. I'm afraid I must make requests of you, even after you and your crew have done so much for my people that we must be thankful for. Ino drummed her fingers on the desk nervously, then stopped herself and said, Well, it's going to be a while before we can resume our journey to Earth. Marathon needs either extensive repairs or an outright replacement. Then we need to wait for the Nexus storm to pass. If there is something we can do to help you, I'll speak to my team and see what can be done. Aster nodded slowly. All surviving members of Captain Quinn's crew have now joined the Interlink and informed the rest of my government about the combat action that took place yesterday. My analysts have studied the burst of coded transmissions sent from Kailasha shortly before it was captured, and we believe that Araj Zelfalin sent out a call for reinforcements. My tactical officer came to the same conclusion, Ino said, tapping her tablet computer. The bulk of the enemy invasion force is still unaccounted for, Aster said. We hope that they were caught in the supernova shockwave that preceded this storm, but hope is not an effective defensive strategy. We must prepare a contingency, one that accounts for the possibility that the main invasion fleet is still loose in our space. The last time my people had contact with the main Destican Armada was over your homeworld 2 months ago, Ino said. I know. I was there, Aster said. You drove off the Desticans, and they retreated to the Nordox system, which is on the Savanti side of the border, close enough to be a threat. Ino frowned in thought. This system is 2 hyperlanes away from the Hodranus wormhole, she said. By now, Kappa Fleet may have gone through and informed Strategic Command, but... Oh no, I forgot. Ino's face fell. My people received some transmissions from Stratcom before we lost contact. It seems like the Coalition was hit by that shockwave too. And the storm? Aster asked. We don't know, Ino admitted. You might be waiting a long time before help arrives from Earth. Obviously, you and your crew are welcome to stay here on the Sanctuary Moon, but I will ask you to contribute to the colony's defense. Ino had expected this. We have a wing of strikecraft and a complement of space superiority missiles, Ino said. The antimatter warheads are only usable in a vacuum, though, so you'll need a way to lift them into orbit. Aster gave Ino a little smile. This is all well and good, he said, but in truth, I am interested in your ship's dark matter cloaking generator. Ino froze, her brain seeming to jam under the weight of implications. The Marathon's cloaking generator was a new technology, highly experimental, and not yet adopted by the Coalition. The Marathon's cloaking generator was a new technology, highly experimental, and not fully adopted by the Coalition. The Marathon was one of only 6 Azrael-class warships carrying the system. Ino was extremely reluctant to just hand over this technology to an alien government, even if they were supposed to be allies. My engineers analyzed the cloaking sails on your ship, Aster pressed on. They believe that with certain modifications, the sails can be used to hide the entire colony from orbital detection. If the Desticans arrive here, they will think they have found an uninhabited world and move on. Ino bit her lip slowly, trying to hide her apprehension. It's a clever plan, she conceded. Let me talk to the rest of my team, see what we can do about it. I understand that I'm asking you to part with sensitive technology and the secret technology of how to work it, Aster said, standing up. But I also ask you to remember that not only our survival is at risk, but yours as well. When the Nexus storm clears, we will be vulnerable again, and my men tell me that Araj Zelfalin is expressing confidence in the interrogation chamber. He seems to think he has friends on the way. Ino stood and tried to hide the fact that she was feeling afraid. Something must have shown in her face, because Aster added, I will order my men to make Araj available to your own interrogators. You will see that my fear of a second Destican attack is well-founded. I hope we may speak again soon.
As you're on your way back home, Something catch your eyes untold. Fear of darkness lingers here. You tremble as you get the fear. Now you're on the cornerstone.